My daughter-in-law smiled as she handed me papers meant to transfer my company to them, calling me too senile to manage anything. I signed without reading a word, watching their faces light up with greed. What they inherited instead was a financial nightmare. I'm Vivienne Harper, 68, and apparently losing my mind. My son David and his wife Clara invited me for a Sunday dinner in Portland, Oregon, but it was an ambush. The smell of rosemary chicken filled the air as I stepped into David and Clara's perfectly curated Portland home. Their house always felt like a staged photo shoot, all sharp edges and cold lighting. Clara greeted me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, wine glass already in hand. David hovered nearby, nervously rearranging silverware. I thought this was just a casual dinner, I said, setting down the lemon pie I'd brought. It is, Clara chirped. But we also wanted to talk about something important. My stomach tightened. We sat down at the long oak dining table, the food untouched. David cleared his throat. Mom, we've noticed some things lately. Like what? I asked, though I already knew where this was heading. Clara slid a manila folder across the table. We just want what's best for you. You've been under a lot of stress, and we know how hard you've worked. It's time you enjoyed your life. Without the burden of business decisions. I opened the folder slowly. Legal transfer documents. Full control of Harper and Associates, the consulting firm I'd built from scratch after my husband passed, shifted to their names. You've got to be kidding me. Dr. Lewis wrote a letter, Clara said, smug now. He agrees the pressure of managing everything isn't good for your mental health. That letter was written without a medical exam, I replied flatly. David shifted in his chair. You've missed meetings, Mom. Forgotten names. Clients have noticed. One missed meeting in 6 months, due to a client emergency. And I forgot one person's middle name. That's your evidence? Clara leaned in, her tone suddenly steely. If you don't sign, we'll have to initiate a competency hearing. That's public, messy, and we'd hate to see your reputation dragged through that, but we will do what's necessary. I looked at David. My son. The same boy I'd stayed up all night tutoring in algebra, the young man whose law school I paid for after he failed the bar exam twice. He wouldn't meet my eyes. You'll still live in the house, Clara added sweetly. We're not monsters. You just won't have to worry about the stress of staff meetings, tax audits, or financial forecasting. I stared down at the pen. My hand hovered over the paper. I had already made up my mind. I signed every page with a calm precision. Clara clapped, actually clapped, like a child on Christmas morning. David looked relieved. Like I had just released him from some imagined prison. I stood, smoothing out my skirt. Well then. Congratulations. Clara blinked. Wait, you're okay with this? Oh yes, I said with a smile that could cut glass. You're now the proud owners of Harper and Associates. I hope you're ready for everything that comes with it. David looked confused. What do you mean? Oh, just the usual obligations. Payroll. Insurance. Audits. I picked up my purse, heading toward the door. Also, Clara, check your email tomorrow morning. The IRS has been asking some questions about the company's structure. Something about a $3 million discrepancy. Clara paled. What? Nothing urgent, I said as I opened the front door. And do give your lawyer a call. You'll want one. What they didn't know was, by the time I signed, I'd already started building something new. At precisely 6:12 a.m. the next morning, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Caller ID, David. I took my time answering. Let it ring 4 times. Good morning, I said sweetly, sipping my tea. You're up early, Mom, his voice was sharp. What the hell did you do? I assume you checked your email? The IRS, he hissed. You knew we were walking into this? Oh, absolutely. And don't forget Northbridge Consulting's inquiry. That should arrive by courier any moment now. I could hear him fumbling in the background. Papers shuffling. Clara shouting. You dumped a company on us that's falling apart. No, David, I said, walking into the garden. I handed over a business you insisted I was no longer competent to run. A distinction worth remembering. We can't manage this. That's odd, I said, plucking a weed. Last night you and Clara seemed very competent. He exhaled sharply. We need help. I'm retired, I said. Besides, by your own argument, I'm not fit to give business advice. He was silent. In the background, Clara yelled something about lawyers and bank accounts. I sipped my tea. I assume you saw the Patterson complaint too? We haven't even opened it. David shouted. You should. They're alleging breach of contract on a $2.7 million deal. You're enjoying this. I looked up at the rising sun. I wouldn't say enjoying, but it's certainly illuminating. They stole a name. I took everything else. The launch party for VH Advisors was understated, just the way I liked it. A rented conference room downtown, trays of catered lunch, and soft jazz playing from a speaker no one could locate. But every seat was filled. 15 former Harper and Associates staff, now mine again. They toasted quietly to their new beginning. I raised my glass with them, the weight of liberation lighter than I imagined. 3 weeks earlier, I'd begun the process in secret, registering the new business, opening discrete accounts, drafting an operational blueprint. I didn't trust Clara with paperclips, let alone $1 million brand. When the staff began to suspect something was off with David and Clara's involvement, they approached me in hushed tones, in parking lots and late-night phone calls. I promised them protection. And now, they had it. The real surprise came from the clients. By week's end, 7 major contracts had migrated, without any formal announcement. Loyalty, it turns out, isn't to logos or slogans. It's to people who pick up the phone, solve real problems, and remember birthdays. Clara called me that Friday. You're stealing from us, she seethed. You mean the employees you treated like disposable parts? Or the clients you ignored for 2 weeks while learning QuickBooks? You're manipulating them. No, Clara, I said. They simply followed the person they trusted. She hung up. An hour later, David emailed me a spreadsheet. Their accounts showed only $18,000 in liquid capital, most of it already committed to payroll. You gutted us, he wrote. I replied with a single sentence, you carved the turkey before checking if it was cooked. Owning a company is easy, keeping it alive is another story. David stared at the numbers on his laptop like they might suddenly rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Clara sat across from him, arms crossed, jaw tight. They were down to 3 weeks of operating capital. The rent was due in 4 days. Where did all the cash go? She snapped. Payroll. Vendor contracts. Legal retainer. And I think Mom moved some discretionary funds before we took over. You think? Clara's voice was rising. We have lawsuits pending, and you don't know where the money is? David didn't respond. He knew exactly where the money had gone, into accounts only his mother had access to. But he didn't dare say that out loud. Meanwhile, across town, I was having lunch with Robert Chen, CEO of Northbridge Consulting. A tall man with shrewd eyes, he didn't bother with small talk. "We're not comfortable with the new management," he said bluntly. "We're pulling our contract." "Understandable," I replied, sliding a folder across the table. "But I'd like to offer you an alternative." Inside the folder, a 6-month consulting proposal from VH Advisors, with services mirroring what Harper and Associates had failed to deliver. Robert read it carefully. "You're undercutting your old rates." "I'm offering certainty," I said. "No drama. No scrambling. Just results." He nodded slowly. "You'll hear from me by Monday." Back at Harper and Associates, the wheels were already falling off. 2 junior consultants quit midweek, citing lack of direction. Clara tried to rally the remaining staff but couldn't answer basic project questions. Vendors began calling, asking why invoices were unpaid. The final blow came Thursday morning. The company's credit line had been frozen. David stared at the bank's email in disbelief. "They're requiring proof of financial solvency due to ongoing litigation and client instability." "We're being bled dry," Clara said. "She planned this." Yes. Yes, I did." David receives a call from Robert Chin. He's moving all contracts to VH Advisors, effective immediately. They wanted power. What they got was payroll and lawsuits. The email from Robert Chen landed at 7:02 a.m. sharp. Subject line, transition notice. David read it twice. Then a third time. Clara walked in holding 2 mugs. "Coffee?" she asked. Then she saw his face. "What now?" He turned the screen to her. She read silently. Her hand trembled. VH Advisors was officially awarded the full Northbridge contract. Effective immediately. The final domino had fallen. "I thought Robert said he needed time," Clara whispered. David didn't answer. There was no point. Time was a luxury they never really had. That morning, 4 employees walked out. 2 interns left without notice. The receptionist didn't even show up. I heard about it from one of my new hires, formerly their operations manager. "It's like rats leaving a burning ship," she said. "They were only there for the decor," I replied. "Once the flowers wilt, the truth shows up." David tried to reach me 3 times that day. I didn't answer. I wanted them to feel it fully, the weight, the silence, the unraveling. Clara finally broke. She called at 4:15 p.m. "You're destroying everything," she screamed. "You've made us into a laughingstock." I put her on speakerphone, continued typing. "You think this is funny? You're playing games with people's lives, Vivienne." I waited until she was out of breath. "I gave you what you asked for," I said calmly. "You insisted I wasn't fit to run the company. You forced my hand. Now you're discovering that leading isn't about power. It's about consequences. You'll regret this," she hissed. I smiled. "Clara, I've regretted many things in life. But trusting my instincts to protect my legacy? That won't be one of them." He looked like the boy I used to know, just more broken. I was reviewing quarterly projections in my office when the front desk buzzed. My assistant's voice was low, hesitant. "Vivienne, it's David. He's here. Says it's urgent." I stared at the screen a moment longer before standing. "Send him in." He walked in with slow, tired steps. His once meticulous shirt was rumpled, his eyes rimmed red from sleepless nights. He looked like the man I used to tuck in during thunder, the one who used to bring me rocks from the playground because they were shiny like me. "Mom," he said. Voice hoarse. "Thank you for seeing me." I gestured to the chair across from mine. Sit. He did, but not easily, as if sitting down meant surrender. I came to ask for your help. I folded my hands. Define help. Harper and Associates is finished, he said bluntly. Clara left the office 2 days ago and hasn't returned. Our landlord is demanding back rent. Payroll bounced last week. Employees are gone. Clients are gone. Everything is gone. I nodded once. I was a fool, he continued. I let her convince me you were weak, outdated, holding us back. You didn't just let her, I corrected gently. You stood beside her while she dismantled everything I built. His lips trembled. I know. I stood, walked to the window, looking out over the river. Why are you really here, David? He was silent for a moment. Then, I want to start over. Not as your son, not as your heir. As your employee. Entry level. Earned. I turned slowly. He wasn't crying. That would have been easier. Instead, he looked hollowed out, stripped bare. I have conditions, I said. You'll be vetted, just like any hire. You'll report to Monica, not me. You'll follow every policy. And if you slip, even once, you're out. He nodded rapidly. I understand. I'm not your mother in this office, I said. I'm your CEO. Yes, ma'am. Justice knocked, not with a gavel, but with something colder. The message from Clara simmered in my mind for 2 days. I hadn't responded. That silence was louder than any threat I could have issued. Then the call started. Unlisted numbers. Voicemails with nothing but static. My office security team flagged one of them, a burner phone pinging from 3 blocks away. She's watching, Monica told me. We need to up surveillance. I nodded. Do it quietly. She'll think she's ahead. Let her. At the same time, odd things started happening. One of our major clients received a strange email, supposedly from me, disparaging VH advisors. But our IT audit proved it had come from a spoofed address, cleverly disguised. Clara was getting sloppy. On Wednesday morning, I walked into my office to find a bouquet of dead roses on my desk. No note. No explanation. I didn't flinch. I'd seen worse threats from competitors during my career. But this was personal. That evening, as I left the building, I noticed a car idling across the street. Same one I'd seen outside my house the night before. It pulled away when I looked directly at it. Later that night, I met David for dinner. He looked tired but steadier, focused. I didn't tell him about the car. I need you to be clean, David, I said. No loose ends from the Harper and Associates mess. He nodded. I shredded everything. The only thing left is the hard drive Clara took when she vanished. You're sure? She's holding on to it for leverage. Maybe she thinks she can still sell it. I leaned back. She's not going to stop until she has nothing left to lose. And that makes her dangerous. They thought they buried me. I brought receipts. The USB was black. Unlabeled except for the handwritten words, "Play me." I slid it into a secure laptop in our tech lab, with Monica and 2 IT leads beside me. It took 10 minutes to scan and verify the files weren't malware. Then we opened them. Dozens of video clips. Clara, standing outside my office building. Clara, watching me through a restaurant window. Clara, recording audio of me during family dinners and client meetings, without my knowledge. Why would she send this to you? Monica whispered. She didn't, I replied. She sent it to whoever she thought would use it. One video was timestamped a week prior, me at a community fundraiser, making a speech. The footage had been edited. Subtly, but maliciously. My words were spliced, rearranged to make me sound confused. Like I was slurring. She's building a false narrative, I said. She's trying to create a digital trail of incompetence. David entered the room halfway through. When I showed him the altered video, his face strained. She used to joke about how easy it was to make anyone look crazy with the right footage. I thought she was just being dramatic. She was laying the groundwork, I said. In case she needed to come back swinging. The next morning, I met with a private investigator I trusted, a former FBI cybercrime analyst. We traced the IP address of the person who uploaded one of the deepfake clips to a forum. It led to a VPN server in Argentina. But the timestamps don't lie, she told me. Whoever sent this USB wanted it found before she launched whatever's next. I placed a call to one of Clara's former tech freelancers, a woman I'd once hired years ago. With the right incentive, she provided access to Clara's off-grid cloud storage. The key was an old password she never changed. Inside were audio files, voice memos, plans, a spreadsheet titled Operation Reclaim, client names, financial estimates, blackmail notes, even false testimonial drafts meant to be leaked to blogs. We printed everything, organized it, built a dossier over 3 days. Then I sent a package, anonymously, to every board member of every company Clara had approached. The message was simple: trust her if you dare. Sometimes the worst betrayals still sound like love. The call came at 2:18 a.m. I was awake. I always was lately. Blocked number. I let it ring twice before picking up. Mom? David. His voice was cracked, like old vinyl, shaky, unsure, and still somehow too familiar. Where are you? I asked. I don't know. Some motel. Highway exit. We've been driving. We? A pause. She's here, he whispered. She's asleep. But I don't know what I'm doing anymore. There it was. The unraveling, the weight of every poor decision cracking his chest open over a phone line. I can't help you if you don't leave her, I said softly. She said you're destroying us. She destroyed herself. I gave her a match. She built the bonfire. I think she's planning something big. Something final. That made me pause. Final how? I don't know. She keeps checking this burner phone. She made me delete my emails. Keeps whispering about an exit plan. Like she's not coming back. My pulse quickened. David, listen to me. You need to walk away. Now. I don't know if I can. I loved her. Part of me still wants to fix it. You can't fix what was designed to break you. Silence stretched. Finally, he said, if I sent you something, the hard drive, would you use it against her? I'd use it to stop her. I don't want her in prison. I just want her, gone. Far away. You don't get to choose justice and comfort, David. You get one. He exhaled. I need time to think. No, I said. You're out of time. She didn't just want to ruin you, she wanted you gone. The knock on my door echoed into the early morning stillness. I hesitated. The hallway was lit only by the soft glow of a hallway lamp. I opened it slowly. Jessica. Clara's younger sister stood there, wrapped in a long gray coat, her eyes sunken with guilt. "I need to talk," she said. I nodded and stepped aside. She held a box in her hands, plain, taped, heavy. She set it on my kitchen counter, then collapsed into the chair like someone whose secrets had finally become too loud to carry. "I kept quiet for too long," she said. "But I saw something. I found something." I poured her tea. "Let the silence do the asking." "She's not just angry," Jessica said. "She's obsessive. She's been building this plan for years. Since before David proposed." "What plan?" Jessica opened the box. Inside, printed screenshots, burner phones, journals. Detailed logs of Clara's surveillance. Names of my employees. Bank routing numbers. Threat models. And a document labeled, Plan Omega, Final Stage. "She talked about committing you," Jessica said. "She met with a psychiatrist in Arizona who promised she could fake the paperwork. All she needed was a few altered video clips, some planted pills, a fabricated incident, and you'd be gone. Institutionalized, out of the way permanently." My hands went cold. "She had the hospital selected," Jessica continued. "A private facility. Expensive. Remote. She even reserved a room under a fake name. She wanted me buried," I whispered. "She was going to make you vanish. Quietly. Legally." I picked up one of the journals. Clara's handwriting danced across the page, "Erase the queen, take the board." Jessica swallowed hard. "I stayed quiet for too long. But I think she's going to try again. She thinks David is cracking. That he'll finally help her finish it. He won't." "I'm not so sure," she said. "You're his mother. But she's his weakness. He gave up everything, except his mother." Marcus's voice over the phone was shaky. "She's in Reno. Room 508 at the Briarstone Hotel. She's not alone." I didn't ask how he knew. I just said, "I'll send someone." He was waiting at my office the next morning, pale, hunched, holding an external drive like it might burn him. "She made me lie," he said. "To the banks, to the IRS, to you. But I'm done." I took the drive from him. "What's on it?" "Everything. Passwords, transfer logs, fake invoices. Even the original signatures she forged from your old letterhead." "You're sure?" He nodded. "I helped her build the whole scheme. But she turned on me, too. And now? I want to testify. I want this off me." We sat in the boardroom for 3 hours going over evidence. I recorded his statement. My legal team took notes. Monica watched him like a hawk but offered him coffee anyway. Later, we brought in a federal contact. The documents were strong. The timeline was airtight. "She'll be arrested before sunset," the agent said. "She won't see it coming." That night, I sat alone in my garden, listening to the stillness. I remembered the first time David brought Clara to dinner. She wore blue silk and a practiced smile. I never trusted her. But I underestimated her, too. In the interrogation room, the truth wore a wire. The footage came in at 6:45 p.m. Clara, handcuffed, sunglasses pushed up on her head, shouting at the TSA agents as they pulled a second passport from her coat. It didn't matter. Her real story had finally caught up with her. David called me within the hour. "They've taken her to the federal holding center. She screamed your name when they put her in the car. She'll scream louder before this is over." The next week was a blur of depositions, filings, interviews. The FBI invited me to sit in on the recorded interrogations. They were brutal, not loud, but methodical. Clinical. Clara lied. Then deflected. Then finally, cracked. "She's jealous," she hissed to the agent. She never accepted that someone else could win. She rigged everything. The agent leaned in, pressing a folder across the table, filled with forged bank docs, her digital footprint, and voice recordings. She flinched. "Let's talk about the psychiatric facility," he said. "I was protecting David." By erasing his mother? Silence. I watched from the adjacent room. She didn't know the room was wired for a live transmission. She started to sob. Outside, I made a note. Not of her tears, but of her timeline. Her intent. Her pattern. The truth was finally speaking louder than her charm ever did. The courtroom was hushed, packed to the rafters with reporters, lawyers, victims, and the curious public. Clara sat in her tailored suit like she owned the air around her, but her hands trembled against her lap. The judge entered. The room stood. "Be seated." A bailiff handed the jury's decision to the clerk. The foreman read clearly, without hesitation, on all counts of fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit elder abuse, and unlawful surveillance, guilty. Clara's lips parted, but no sound came out. The judge continued without pause. The court sentences Clara Harper to 15 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole for the first 7 years. Further financial restitution is ordered in the amount of $1.8 million to be paid to Vivienne Harper and affiliated damages. I felt nothing. No joy. No sorrow, just air returning to my lungs. Clara turned her head, locked eyes with me. She mouthed, "This isn't over." I stared back. "Yes, it is." The bailiff cuffed her. She didn't resist. David didn't attend the sentencing. He sent me a message that morning, "I'm not ready to face her yet. I need more time to rebuild." Marcus stood beside me, dressed in a gray suit, sober and still. He hadn't spoken much since the trial, but that day, he reached over and squeezed my hand. Outside the courthouse, the press swarmed. I gave no comment. Just a quiet nod and a walk to the waiting car. "I'd like to stay on at VH Advisors," he said. "If you'll have me. You earn every inch of healing, just like you earn trust." Marcus sat across from me, his resume updated, clean. But it wasn't the paper I looked at. It was his posture. His voice. His humility. "I want to stay," he said. "Not because I deserve it. But because I'm ready to earn it." I watched him for a long moment. "You won't be promoted fast. You won't get a title just because your last name is Harper." "I know. You will take criticism. You will be vetted. You will show up every day and prove you belong here. Understand?" He nodded. "I'm not asking for anything but the opportunity." So I signed his onboarding papers. Officially. And handed them to Monica. She raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "No," I said. "But second chances don't come with guarantees. They come with rules." Marcus worked quietly for the first few months. He avoided the spotlight. Took notes. Shadowed meetings. Cleaned up messes no one asked him to. Employees warmed up to him slowly. Some, not at all. But he didn't flinch. He started therapy. Once a week. Then twice. When I walked past his desk one Friday, he was speaking to a new hire, showing her how to read vendor contracts. Calm. Clear. Respectful. Later, he stopped by my office. "Thank you," he said. "For not giving up on me." "I did," I said. "You gave up on her. That's what saved you." He nodded. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. 6 months later, the office was quieter. Not silent, just settled. The chaos had passed, and in its wake came growth. VH Advisors had tripled its client list. Our interns were smart, our systems lean, our energy sharper than ever. I no longer stayed until midnight. I took Fridays off. I even adopted a dog, Murphy, a retired golden retriever who liked my garden as much as I did. Marcus continued to work, harder than anyone. He'd begun mentoring younger staff, holding workshops, even submitting an op-ed to a national paper about elder abuse in corporate power structures. They published it. He didn't even tell me until after. I hung a copy of it in the hallway. "I didn't write it for attention," he said. "I know," I replied. "That's why it's good." Clients noticed. The industry noticed. Even old competitors sent congratulatory notes. I began receiving invitations to speak, not about business, but about resilience. One crisp fall morning, I stood before a room of entrepreneurs in Seattle. I didn't read a script. I just told the truth. "I used to think legacy was about what you left behind," I said. "But I've learned it's about what you fight to keep." The applause was polite, until I mentioned Clara. "I thank her," I said. "Not for what she tried to do, but for showing me what I still had in me." Later that night, I returned home to a quiet house. Murphy at my feet, wine in hand. The mailbox held only one thing, a letter. No return address. Postmarked from a small town in New Mexico. Inside, 3 words, handwritten. "You survived me." I stared at it. Then lit the fireplace. The letter turned to ash. A distant cousin emailed me later that night. Clara had been spotted, working at a yoga retreat under a new name. I closed the laptop. Peace isn't always permanent. But sometimes, it's enough to know you won the war. I poured another glass of wine, stepped onto the porch, and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and rose. Murphy rested his head on my knee, content. For the first time in years, I felt the slow, unhurried rhythm of life I had fought so hard to reclaim. I laughed at a memory from the trial, then made plans for a weekend getaway, a book I'd been meaning to finish, and a garden still waiting to bloom. Every day wasn't perfect, but every day was mine, and I was determined to savor it.